Okay, so there is a chapter in the Torah that, in the parasha that we're discussing this week, which people still get involved in. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I got involved in this too at one point in my life when I was a young man, and I'm going to discuss that as well. But the Torah considers it to be one of these 613 averot that a person must not do. And it's considered a toeva, a terrible, terrible action. And if you want to see it inside, it's on chapter 18 in Devarim, Yudchet Chai, verse 9. And it talks about one of the problems the Jewish people are going to face when they enter into Israel, and that is to be involved in fortune telling. Fortune telling and seeking the advice of mediums, trying to portend the future. All these things are totally forbidden min Torah. They are doraita. And they include, says the Torah, passing a son or daughter between two fires to Molech. That's what they used to do. They used to have two fires and have a little platform to go between them. And the different opinions what would happen. But one is that they would basically make the child walk across and they would end up in the fire, and that was seen as a sacrifice. And it was one of the ways that they would bring fortune upon themselves. As well as this is stick divination, acts based on fortuitous times, doing certain things in order to do that. Divining on the basis of strange coincidences or occurrences. Practicing sorcery is forbidden. Divination with animals. They used to have very unusual forms of sorcery using dead animals and bones of animals. And this one I know for a fact is still done today, raising and consulting with the spirits of the dead. This is an Isur Doraita, and one is not allowed to do any of these acts. So there is a very famous machloket, a very famous disagreement between the Rambam and the Ramban, Maimonides and Nachmanides, as to what is the root prohibition of going to a medium and having a conversation with a dead person, or at least with a neshama of a dead person. So the Rambam, and both of these ways of arguing their position are, you're allowed to take either side. The Rambam was what some call a rationalist, although I don't really like that title. He says there's no such thing. It is forbidden to be a medium, to try to speak to the dead, because all the people who claim to be able to do this are charlatans. They're taking advantage of you, and they're there for the money, or maybe it's the power, or something else, and it is asur to go to these people, but there is no such powers that will allow a person to speak to the dead. Oh, we know there is a story in Tanakh, a very famous story of Shaul, King Saul, that wanted to speak to the neshama of Shmuel Hanavi to get advice from him. And he went to this woman who was an expert in this form of sorcery, of mediumship, and she called the neshama of Shmuel, and Tanakh tells us that Shmuel came back and actually was very upset. If you look inside Tanakh, he was not happy. He says, Lamra Gastani, why did you bring me back? Right? This is not a good thing. Do not do this. Even the Rambam would say that incident is the one and only time it truly happened. But this woman was known as a medium. So he says that she always was doing it fake in order to make money. But on this occurrence, at this one juncture, she was actually able to do it, which actually shows why, if you look at the Pesukim over there, she freaked out when Shmuel turned up, because she'd never seen anything like this before. She was just in it for the money and all the other stuff that came with it. So she knew it was sheker, yet it happened over here that it became true, and that's why she freaked out. So that is the opinion of the Rambam. The Ramban says no. No, there is something called koach tumah. People have abilities. People have a sixth sense, and this, by the way, is pretty much accepted among most of the commentators. And the reason you're not allowed to do this because such powers exist, but it's going to lead you astray. And you're going to end up doing this, and then you're going to end up doing other stuff, and then you're going to consult people, you're going to make it into its own little religion, and what's going to happen is you'll end up worshipping Avodah Zarah. So according to the Ramban, in other words, they both agree, the Rambam and the Rambam both agree that it's Asur. Everyone agrees that. You're not allowed to do it because the Torah says so. But the reason is, the question is why? The Rambam says because it's all nonsense, it's just people taking advantage of you, and you're allowed to take that methodology and believe that. Or you say it's because of the Ramban that these powers are real, there is a koach, and by doing so, you're actually affecting the neshama of the person you're bringing back. It is not a pleasant experience for the soul of the person to be pulled back into this world in order to give the information. It's uncomfortable and you should not do it. It is asur. I remember when I was a kid, there used to be a game, it was actually a game, called a Ouija board, you know? And we used to play it, and there'd be numbers and letters, and you would loosely put your finger on this little apparatus or this cup, and you would pass it around. I mean, whenever you did it, you're basically pushing it around yourself. Actually, it was a game. People don't realize that. It's actually one of the hottest selling games at some point, okay? It wasn't meant to be taken as a real thing. And then a movie came out about it, one of the scary movies, and it was real. But if it were to happen and you were trying to do it, it's asur. If your intention is to try to bring back the souls of someone who's passed the other world, it's a big problem. Oh, by the way, back to that story of Shaul, King Saul, and Shmuel, Samuel the prophet. According to the Ramban, why does she freak out when this apparition of Shmuel appeared? Right? Why does she freak out? So according to the Ramban and those who follow the Ramban, she freaked out because usually when a person came, they came, I think, feet first. They would appear feet first. That's how it would reveal themselves. Here, this apparition of Shmuel appeared head first, and she realized this was a very important person, and then she realized the person standing in front of her was a king. So it happened to her all the time. Just she realized now that she was being called to call back the soul of Shmuel, Hanavi, and she realized that the person in front of her was actually a king, so that's why she freaked out. Because she did freak out. It just depends which argument you go by. So why is this such a problem? What does the Torah expect? Whether it's not true, whether it's true, what is the concern? So here we see one of the most famous pasukim that summarize this concept. This is the pasuk that is constantly quoted when it comes to this particular isur of sorcery, divination, mediumship. And that is, Tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha. You need to be perfect when it comes to your relationship with God. What does that mean? Tamim. Why is that word being used over here? So tamim has connotations of tamimut. You've got to be simple. Don't try to look about what's happening in the future. That is not what you need to have faith in Hashem and do what's right now. And put your faith in Hashem that what's coming in the future is a good thing. I'll tell you a story actually that happened to me many, many years ago. First of all, when I grew up, I wasn't, so aware of these particular halachot. I went to a medium, a certain guy, and was he cold reading, like the Rambam would say? Did he have certain kochot and powers? He definitely said things to me that he could not have known. I mean, this is pre-internet. I was a teenager, and one of my friends recommended I go and see this guy. I paid him, actually. And he did say things to me that, I don't know, maybe he really was a master cold reader and was able to obtain information just by talking to me and seeing my, facial expressions and stuff. But he said things that I'm telling you right now, there's no way he could have known. Okay, that's one thing. I had a friend and I heard an audio tape of this, who had a medium, their parents, a Jewish family, the parents were obsessed with mediumship, and they would always bring people to their house to do readings, okay, which, by the way, as we said, is asur min Torah. You're not allowed to do it. But this family did. And I heard an audio cassette that my friend played me from many years before, where the medium had said to the father that in the future, you are going to kill somebody. And he told him when, like 4 years' time, almost like to the month. I don't think exact date. I'm going back, like 40 years. But he told him, you're going to kill somebody when you turn 50 or whatever it was. And the guy was like in his, his mid-40s at that point. So my friend played the tape so I could hear it, because they kept this audio. They kept all the audio tapes of these readings. Happens to be that his father was driving around, and a person had got drunk and stumbled down to the street, and he'd hit him with his car, completely accidentally. And he killed him. He wasn't in trouble. It was a complete accident, but it was highly and heavily traumatic. So at the time, I was freaking out when I heard this story, and I saw the evidence of it because I heard the tape. I remember actually I heard the audio cassette, the guy saying that when you're 50, and he goes on. And years later, he actually did it. But I would say like this. I would say, look, let's say this person did actually have this power. Let's go with the derech of the Ramban. This person did actually have this power to know this information, and this was going to happen. What good did he do, this man? By putting this seed in his head, by somehow being able to foretell the future, fortune telling, what exactly did he do to him? There's no good that came from this. All he did was freak out, if he believed in it, that one day I'm going to kill someone, and this is the gezerah, this is the judgment that's on my head. But nothing good comes from it. There's a reason why Hashem wants him to do this act. There's a reason why Hashem decides this person at this time would lose his life, if that's the decision that's made. And this is the opposite of having faith in it. It's the anti-faith in Hashem. Tamim tiyeh im Hashem lekacha. Don't try to look into the future. Figure out what's right now. Do your actions now. And based upon your actions now, then good things will come to you, B'ezrat Hashem, in the future. By trying to, to some degree, maybe it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Once you know this is going to happen, or once you're told it, you're going to steer your life towards that end, or you're going to try to avoid that end, but there's no way of doing that. And it overtakes your entire life. This is not what Hashem wants from us. We have to be perfect and tamim, and only put our faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and not on other individuals who either do or don't have this particular koach of future telling. We'll stop over there. Have a great day.